Alright, hello everybody. Welcome to Happy Wolf Art and episode 4 of Learn German with the California Kids. Deutsch lernen mit den kalifornischen Kindern. Welcome everybody that have been following or who have been following this series. Real briefly, I want to note in previous videos I mentioned high school and college credits. If you follow this course, it'll give you the knowledge that you need to pass these proficiency tests that schools offer. And for example, at a college that I recently taught at, they have a proficiency test. You just go online, it's very easy to take. You answer some questions, fill in some blanks, multiple choice type of questions, and then they place you in a certain level of language course. Now, if you need one semester of a language, for example, to graduate from, say, a junior college, and you place into the second or third semester, then you've met that requirement. Same thing for high school. So that helps you with your coursework. It'll help advance you quicker towards your degree. So in that sense, this course is beneficial to help you get done sooner. All right, also, before you do the new videos, it's a good idea to review either all of the previous videos or at the very least the video before this one, so say video 3, just to get the context, the information back in your mind that you're studying, okay? All right, so today we're starting off with colors. I'm just going to play this video. The title for this video on YouTube will also be in the description. And then we're going to get into a warm-up. So I'm going to play this briefly just to introduce the colors. The video is about a minute long.
Herzlich willkommen zum Video mit dem Thema die Farben. Rot, Blau,
Okay, so when you have time, memorize the colors.
Gelb,
Die Farbe with an E
Rosa,
is the singular form. Farben with an N
Lila,
is plural.
Grau,
And you can pronounce
Orange,
the word after for pronunciation. Orange,
Grün,
grün,
Braun,
braun. That way you can practice your pronunciation.
Weiß, Schwarz,
And you can combine
Hellgrün,
dark and light colors. Hell
Dunkelgrün,
for light and dunkel for dark.
Hellblau, Dunkelblau. So, das waren die wichtigsten Informationen zu den Farben.
Okay, so those were the basic colors. So spend some time learning those, and also the hell and dunkel that you can combine with other words and other colors. So, okay, Farben. Oh, let's go to play again. I need to go to the next video. So normally what I do in a classroom setting is I do a verbal warm-up, and these are those basic introductory questions that we've done in the previous videos. These are conversational questions that you use when you meet people and you see them each day. So here, super important question is to ask somebody, how are you? Or how's it going? Okay? So wie geht's dir? So how, gehen means to go, it, s, and then dir. And dir is a dative. Okay, so literally it's how does it go to you? So in English it's how are you? And so a lot of people will try and translate that word for word, and it doesn't work. Wie bist du? That's how are you? What type of a person are you? But here it's wie geht's dir? How does it go to you? And here's some options that I've listed. And start off with your answer. Gut, danke. Always say thank you. And then you return the question to the person. Und dir. Now there are different forms. This is the informal form. This is the dative for du, the pronoun du, you, informal. And so we're going to start with that form. Eventually, I'll mention the formal, which is Ihnen, and how to use that. But mir, to me, goes it well. Mir geht's gut. Danke. Okay. Then again, you can offer the question und dir. A lot of first year students will say und du and you, but it's und dir because remember, it's how is it going to you? Und dir, to you. Schlecht. Yeah, bad. Mir geht's schlecht. I'm not doing well. Okay? In German society, it's okay to say if you're not doing well. American society is a little bit more polite, not letting others know if you're not doing well. Here are some various options that you can use to answer this question. Gut, schlecht, so is like so. It's in the middle, right? I'm doing all right. So la la is a little bit flippant. It's like, yeah, it's going, right? It's there's a little bit of sass in there. Nicht gut, not good. Okay, wunderbar, ausgezeichnet. Mir geht's wunderbar heute. And then touching back on colors, which we just saw in the previous video. Hast du eine Lieblingsfarbe? Right? And this can just be a question you throw out here, but it's going to also illustrate some concepts that I want to give to everybody that's called pronoun substitution. So hast, du, you, do you have eine, this is called an indefinite article, Lieblingsfarbe, favorite color. Now, each noun has a grammatical gender. So Farbe is a feminine noun. It's die Farbe. Often nouns with this E ending are feminine. Not always, but this is a compound noun. And so the last part of a compound, the last word, actually determines the grammatical gender for the entire word. So here it's die, it's feminine, and we're going to need a feminine indefinite article, which is eine. Okay, and we're going to do a pronoun substitution. So here's our question. Do you have a favorite color? And the answer is ja. Meine Lieblingsfarbe ist blau. Now I put sie here in parentheses because it is the pronoun that you would substitute the feminine form with. So we're going to get rid of meine Lieblingsfarbe and we're going to say it is. So sie is she or it, and there's other uses for sie, other forms that look very similar. Sie ist blau, and that's what I have given everybody here in the second sentence. It is, okay, instead of having to say the pronoun over and over again. And if you have no favorite color, this will introduce a form of negation, what's called negation in German. So nein, ich habe, I have, keine Lieblingsfarbe. So you take the indefinite article, eine, you're adding a K to it, and that negates the noun, that thing you don't have. Ich habe keine Lieblingsfarbe. Or if you do have a favorite color or colors, you can say ja, aber, but ich habe zwei Lieblingsfarben. Now these nouns with this E ending, they're often feminine, and the plural form is simply adding an N. So plural forms are notoriously difficult in German. There's 7, 8, 9, I can't remember the exact number of forms of the plural. Each noun is sort of unique or different in its own way, and this is just one form of making the plural. And it's a very consistent, easy one. So you see an E and you add an N to make the plural. All right, so this person has two favorite colors. Und sie, and this Z is not the Z here, this is they, and you know that by the verb sind, and this is a form of sein, to be. We saw that chart on the last video. So they are blau und grün. Sie sind blau und grün. Okay, so we're doing pronoun substitution here. We have favorite color substituted by it, depending on the grammatical gender of the noun. Okay. All right, so here is our list of pronouns. Ich, du, sie, er, sie, es. Remember in the previous video, I recommended memorizing these, trying to find that rhythm and pattern, and then add one line at a time and go back through it. Now for pronoun substitution, we're going to be focusing on er, sie, and es, and also sie plural. Okay, and if you have the Kontakte 7th edition on page 41, you'll find this information. Okay, if you have the 8th edition, it'll be around page 41, maybe 42. And remember, these used editions are very inexpensive. You can find them online. Kontakte is, I think, on the 9th or 10th edition currently, but 7 and 8 you can find fairly inexpensively. So do spend some time memorizing these pronouns, and these are going to be nominative, what's called nominative pronouns, or the subject pronouns when they're the subject of a sentence. But we're going to be using these singular ones and this plural one here for pronoun substitution. Okay. All right, let's move on to the next um, sort of a chart here, but I have some examples. And here I have definite and indefinite articles. So a definite article is der, die, or das. So in German, the word the has 3 forms depending on the grammatical gender. So you have masculine is der, you have feminine, die, and you have neuter, das. Okay, so remember these all mean the, and each noun has a grammatical gender, and it fits into one of these 3 categories. And then plural is die. Okay? Then we have indefinite articles. These are ein words, and they mean a, like a singular, a car, a hat, ein. Okay, so if you were going to try and use an indefinite article with a masculine noun in the singular, you're going to use ein. Here it's eine, and neuter is ein. So notice ein is used 2 different times, and then eine. So do memorize these. This is important information, and I'll show you how they're used in these examples. So if you have a father, here we have biological gender and grammatical gender matching up. They don't always match up in the language. So if you think of like a car, it happens to be das Auto. Okay, and you don't have to ask why is it das and not masculine, why is it not feminine. Okay, it doesn't follow biological gender in most cases, but for people it does. So here the father's masculine, der Vater heißt. The father is called, his name is. Okay. If we go to a mother, die Mutter kommt aus. Remember, this is one of our introductory questions. Where do you come from? Woher kommst du? Die Mutter, the mother, comes out of. Okay. Notice that Vater and Mutter, this is in the subject. It's the subject of the sentence. It's the person or thing doing the action. So coming from or is being called. Das Kind. Here we have a child. Notice that a child is the neuter form, das Kind. And then the plural, die Eltern, and we have sind. If you notice on the singular forms, Vater, Mutter, Kind, the verbs, here's a verb, end in a T. Heißt. The verb kommen becomes kommt. The verb wohnen becomes wohnt. And this is what's called verb conjugation. And we'll get into that in the next episode. And so when you have different subjects, singular or plural, you're going to have different forms of the verb, just like in English, for example. So she says, we say, okay? And so the singular has the S, and the plural doesn't. All right, and then if you need an indefinite article, so you have to be aware of the grammatical gender. For example, father is masculine. You'd put in ein. Okay, so the form that goes with the masculine is ein. We insert that here. Feminine, it's die Mutter, so we use eine. So eine Mutter kommt aus. So a father comes, a mother comes out of. Okay. Und Kind, it's das Kind, so we're going to use ein Kind. Ein Kind wohnt mit. And if you notice Eltern, you would never say a parents because a is singular. So there is no ein word for the plural. Some will insert a number because it's plural, 1, 2, 3, not one because that's singular, but 2, 3, 4. Or you can use this word einige, which means some parents. Okay. So further practice, if you want to go to Contacta 7th edition, and there's some activities you can fill in the blank and work on those to help practice these indefinite articles, these substitutions on pages 40 through 42. Okay, so definite articles, indefinite articles. We looked at pronouns. Okay, and we're going to come back to those pronoun substitutions. And this section is recognizing the grammatical gender and substituting it with a proper pronoun. So if we use this one again, der Vater, we know it's masculine. We know the father's the subject of the sentence. He's living in Los Angeles. And we want to say he, okay, instead of saying the father. It's a masculine singular, so we're going to use er. Third person singular. Er wohnt. Again, there's that T for the third person singular, er, sie, es. Okay, mother, die Mutter, sie heißt. Okay, and if we skip back really briefly to this chart, down here, masculine, he, she, feminine, s, neuter, and then z, plural. Okay, so you'll have to have that chart out until you have it memorized, and then you won't need the book open to that page anymore. Das Kind, the child, spielt am Strand, so plays at the beach. We're going to replace the child with it. It plays at the beach. Es spielt. Okay? Sometimes because neuter, the child is obviously going to be a male or female, so some people will put in er or sie, but to be grammatically consistent and correct, es is the proper pronoun for das Kind because it is a neuter noun. Here we have a plural. Die Kinder haben eine Katze. They have a cat. Die Kinder is plural. So they have, sie haben. And if we go back up to that chart, sie down here, they, right, is the form. Okay? It's obviously capitalized because it's the beginning of the sentence. All right, here we have the Peer Kids. This is another part of the California Kids story. The summer begins, which is complete, and that's why I haven't posted a learning German video in a while. I'm done formatting, and I'm working on getting copies made. So these are the Peer Kids, and the Beach Kids, or the California Kids. Initially, they're called the California Kids. They later become the Beach Kids. They have some adventures, some conflicts, and stuff in the story that are a lot of fun and entertaining. So, all right, and then we have this text. Remember, reading a text, learning about the language through reading is very important. And we have questions for the text and then answers for the text. Now, these texts that I've provided in these first few videos is part of a collection of short texts about the California Kids. And I'm going to present about 4 or 5 of them, but there's 12 total. And that will be in one of these booklets that I'll be offering for people to purchase. The main thing about these texts that is really good is the vocabulary in these texts and the grammar follow almost every textbook. It's a process of introducing grammar and vocabulary. So if you're just beginning the language, these texts are consistent with almost every German program, so it's a good supplement to whatever you're doing. Okay, so let's read these together and look at a little bit of the sentence structure. You can work on your pronunciation. Meine Freunde und ich. Meine Freunde und ich. My friends and I. And I. Okay, these people here are the subject of the sentence. Then we have our verb. Remember, verb is going to be in the second position most often, not always. Kommen. This en is a plural conjugational ending. So they come ursprünglich aus Deutschland. Okay, originally from Germany. but wir sind in Beachland groß geworden. Okay, this form is a past tense. Don't worry about it now. Um, Generally, these texts are all in present tense. So we are in Beachland big, become. So we grew up. Okay, we became big. Wendy is the subject here. Here's the verb sein, is. Wendy is meine beste Freundin. So this friend is obviously a female. We see these E's all over the place. Meine beste. And then this in is a feminine noun ending. Okay. Und ich liebe, and I love, dass sie freundlich ist. Notice the verb is at the end of the sentence. So up here I said verbs are in second position. You have subject, verb, but here it changes. It breaks that rule. And it's because of this word das. Dass sie freundlich ist. Okay? Tubbs and Katrin wohnen auch hier. They also live here. Okay, we have two people, so it's plural, and we have a plural ending en, verb conjugation. We'll be coming to that the next episode 5. Sie sind Geschwister, they are siblings. Zusammen sind wir die kalifornischen Kinder. Together we are the California kids. Und wir sind gute Freunde. And we are good friends. So again here, the verb's second position. The subject's first, verb second. Here we have zusammen, together, takes first position for emphasis, and then the verb is still in the second position, and then the subject follows the verb closely. It wants to be really close to the verb, generally speaking. Beachland ist ein Ort, is an area, a place, mit nur, with only vier Häusern, only 4 houses. Wie schreibt man Beachland? How does one write Beachland? Or how do you spell it? How do you write it? Wo wohnst du? Where do you live? Ich wohne in. Remember, these are all these introductory questions in the previous videos we dealt with. Ich wohne in Los Angeles. Ich wohne in New York. Und wie buchstabiert man? How does one or how do people spell buchstabieren? Diese Stadt, this city. So, is Beachland a city? Well, it only has 4 houses, so it's not really a city. Das heißt, that means, wie schreibt man das? How does one write that or spell it? Okay, if you think of spelling as a form of writing. All right, so this is text 2 called Freunde, friends. Here, this E is a plural ending. Okay, and we move on to questions about the text. Remember, taking the words in the question and often rearranging them is the best strategy as you're learning. Some of these, for example, number 2 is a little bit tricky because it's in the past tense. But I've given the answers for these in the previous, or not the previous, the next slide. And so I'm not going to go through them in detail because I don't want the video to be too long. But here you can start with the California kids. Put that in the subject slot, which is generally first in the sentence, the California kids. You have your verb second, kommen, and then you can put in ursprünglich, you can leave it out, aus, and then the answer, okay? So if we look at the answer here, sie, they, pronoun substitution, or the California kids, kommen ursprünglich aus Karlsruhe. Now if you notice this en, they come. If you go back to the question, the en is here because the subject is still the same. It's a plural, okay? So let's skip number 2 for now. Let's look at the subject for number 3. Karl is the subject, heißt. So Karl's beste Freundin, this whole thing can be considered the subject, his best friend. Now let's look at the answer. The answer here is given she, right? Because his best friend is Wendy, so we're going to use the pronoun sie, heißt. Okay, we have a T. We go back here, heißt with a T for Karl's beste Freundin. So the information is given to you in the question, okay? Or you can have Karl's beste Freundin heißt Wendy. All right, so I'll let you go through these questions and answers together. Also, when you're doing these texts, I always tell my students to translate these word for word. Meine, and you would put my, Freunde, friends, und, and, I, ich, right? And then you list it that way. You circle the verb conjugation, you underline the verb, you think about word positioning, etc. Okay? I know it's very technical, but it's us becoming familiar with the language, how the language works. All right, so there's the answers to the questions. You can work through those on your own. And then this is the video about the text. We just saw one of the texts, one of the 12. And so this is on my YouTube channel. You can go ahead and listen to all of it yourself. It's a 5 or 6 minute video. I'm just going to play it for a second and flip through some of the features of these texts.
Welcome to Happy Wolf Art and Learning German with the vocabulary in these chapters.
Right, so these are all of the texts. I'm going to turn down the volume on this. These are all of the individual texts. You notice down here there's 12 texts total, and they're all about the California kids. Again, using vocabulary and grammar that all German programs use in the first semester. Okay. Just like here, you'll have the text. Notice the spacing where you can directly translate word for word these sentences. And then you have the questions down below. And at the back of the booklet, the answers will be listed. The other thing you'll note in this booklet that I'm offering is there's a vocabulary section right after the text. So any word in the text you can look up in this vocabulary list and have the definition for it. Okay, so looking up word takes a lot of time. So here it's all provided directly for you. Okay, so that's an example of text 1. At the very back of the book is going to be an introductory story to the main California Kids story in German. This is going to be something that you'll be able to read at the end of this video series if you're a true beginner, if you're just beginning with the language. And it's a 3-page little introductory story that's different from the 12 texts, and that'll let you know how much you've progressed in your German knowledge. Okay. Last thing to show here are the answers to the questions. Okay, so this will be available, and if you're interested in getting a copy of that, please do give me a follow on my Instagram. You've come across my YouTube channel already, so you could, you can follow me on my YouTube channel, also my Instagram. You can subscribe, and these 2 places, there will be updates and various art. So currently, for example, on my Instagram, I'm posting what's called character sheets. I mentioned that down here about some of the kids that are going to be in the story. So some of the artwork as the project is progressing. Okay, so do give me a follow if you're interested, or subscribe. The California Kids Summer Begins is only part 1 of a 5-part story. Currently I'm writing part 2 and developing these character sheets for what's called the Playground Kids, and that will be one of the adventures they go on in part 2, which is sort of a downtown-ish type of area. It's Los Angeles early on, before it was developed in its current form. But it's all fictional too. So, okay. All right. Well, thank you for joining me, and we'll see everybody next video. Tschüss.